Imperialist rivalry caused numerous localized disputes, wars, and skirmishes around the turn of the century.
Japan and China over Korea and Formosa. The United States and Britain over Venezuela. Britain and France over the Sudan. Spain and the United States over Cuba and the Philippines. Britain and the Dutch colonists over South Africa. Germany and France over Morocco. Russia and Japan over Manchuria.
Japan's victory in the 1905 Russo-Japanese War was a humiliating defeat for the huge but backward Russian Empire. For the first time in modern history, a European power had been defeated by a non-European nation. Russia's century-long eastward expansion into Asia had been checked. Japan was on the rise. The effects of these conflicts were threatening the balance of power in Europe. Germany, a latecomer in the rivalry for colonies, was beginning to test its strength. Determined to industrialize rapidly and build its military strength, Germany in the early 1900s passed Britain as the major European producer of iron and steel, the most critical industrial products. But when it came to colonial possessions, Germany remained a second-rate power, unable to make much headway against the British and French. Frustrated by this conflict between industrial might and territorial inferiority, Germany felt it increasingly necessary to challenge its imperialist rivals. In 1911, a dispute broke out between Germany and France as Kaiser Wilhelm II sought to block France from gaining complete control of the Moroccan port of Agadir. Wilhelm yearned to establish Germany as a great world power and decided to embark on an ambitious program of naval expansion, challenging Britain's long-standing supremacy of the seas. Britain, determined to remain ahead, increased production too. Soon, the two nations were spending huge sums of money in their rivalry for superior naval strength. This contest was only one part of a continuing buildup of arms and armies going on throughout Europe. Everywhere, factories turned out weapons of incredible effectiveness. The military inspired near reverence, and its leaders played prominent roles in the governments of most nations. This military buildup soon developed a momentum of its own. Each nation wanted to remain one step ahead of its potential enemies. Yet every new weapon added to one nation's arsenal, every new division added to its army, was quickly matched and bettered in this endless cycle. Once the process had started, no nation felt it could afford to stop. The arms race took place along with a developing system of alliances that started in 1879, when Germany allied itself with Austria-Hungary. Italy joined 3 years later in what was called the Triple Alliance. Alarmed at Germany's growing strength, Russia and France signed a counter-alliance in 1894. Tsar Nicholas II, ruler of Europe's most notorious autocracy, was welcomed as a hero in Paris, birthplace of Europe's democratic tradition. Britain had always been reluctant to form alliances, preferring to follow a policy of splendid isolation, relying for protection on its navy and on the balance of power among the feuding nations of Europe. But by the turn of the century, even mighty Britain was worried by Germany's growing strength. This worry led Britain early in the century to reach agreement with France and Russia against Germany and its allies. In every country, military leaders began mapping battle plans, just in case. Was a major war inevitable?
Certainly, I think so, said France's top general. It will come. I shall fight it, and I shall win.
This was the mood in Europe. When, in Sarajevo, a Slavic nationalist murdered the heir to the Austrian throne. Austria, desperate to save its empire, decided to move against Serbia, where nationalist agitation seemed to be centered. As Serbians hurried to defend their country, Russia pledged to support her Slavic cousins against Austria. Germany promised to aid Austria if Russia intervened, while the French prepared to back up their Russian ally. As the system of alliances came into play, mobilization orders went out all across Europe. Finally, on July 28, 1914, Austria declared war against Serbia. One by one, the nations of Europe picked up their weapons. The spirit of nationalism had heightened tensions between nations, while firing the patriotic passions within each nation. The intensive arms race had encouraged each nation to equate its preservation with its military strength, creating a mood in which war seemed inevitable. The alliance system had virtually guaranteed that if a war erupted, it would engulf all of Europe. And at the root of it all was the fierce competition among the imperial powers to realize their national dreams by gaining control of the world's resources. The war, which became truly worldwide when the United States entered combat in April 1917, changed the world. At its start, British Foreign Minister Sir Edward Grey said, "The lamps are going out all over Europe. We shall not see them lit again in our time." And he was right. Europe never regained its dominant place in the world. Out of the ashes of the war rose a fearsome totalitarian movement that in 20 short years would lead to another, more terrible war.